There have been a lot of talks going around about why the NBA is losing viewerships ever since Adam made a statement earlier in the season. And I don't necessarily think there is one reason for the viewership decline, but there are a handful of reasons to get the results you see today. I will say hypothetically, if there was a pie, some slices may be bigger than others, but they are still a part of the same pie that needs to be addressed. What I personally think the biggest reason for the decline is streaming. A lot of people don't have cable anymore, so you're already out on NBA TV and TNT and your local broadcasts. You can maybe catch a game on ABC and ESPN Plus and with HBO Max. And speaking of those streaming services like YouTube TV or Hulu, they don't include the local games, so you're only subject to watching nationally televised games for the most part. Not to mention that those companies still struggle to maintain their rights to air ESPN games. YouTube TV almost lost ESPN and ABC, what was that, like a year ago? My parents still use cable, so you would think that I wouldn't experience any problems watching the NBA, right? Nope. Just before the season started, DirecTV Stream was negotiating a new contract with ESPN, so it was basically blacked out until the deal was done. And you know Mickey Mouse gonna always get their coins, it don't matter. Another struggle I had was when I was in college, when Xfinity made it to where you couldn't watch certain channels unless I was using the Xfinity Wi-Fi. Even though this has nothing to do with the NBA, this was still a major hurdle I had because I could really only watch games on TNT and not even on my own local broadcast channels. So I had to resort to other means. Keep in mind that this is also the last year of the TNT deal, so we don't know exactly what NBC is going to be like. Instead of splitting the national broadcast 2 ways, it's now being split 4.5 ways, and I'm not sure how that's going to go. Especially if you are expecting people to pay for more streaming services for one particular thing. They just paid for a new TV deal so they could make their games more inaccessible, who knows. Amazon Prime could literally raise their prices because they know people are going to tune in just to watch the NBA. Monday is exclusive to Peacock, which is a service I do not have nor do I plan on to, so I will be using other means to watch the game. Same thing for Thursday and Amazon Prime. So what if you just want to watch one or two teams? You would think just get NBA League Pass, right? But they're no good either. They have blackouts too. My manager is a Cavs fan, but he doesn't live in Ohio. And he's still having trouble watching those games even through League Pass. Because some of the broadcasts have like exclusive deals with like other channels and they can't really air games with them or something like that. I mean, you could just have a subscription just for that channel. But then this would mean for either cable or get League Pass, ESPN Plus, HBO Max, and like Bally Sports, for example, to be able to watch all 82 games for 30 NBA teams. Now, why would I do all of that when I could just watch it for free with online streams? I know that the NFL has a similar problem to where you need to have 5 different services to keep up with all the games. But again, why would I do that when I can do it hassle-free? Even LeBron uses said streams. And this is a completely self-inflicted problem. It would be different if at any given night you could watch any team you choose on League Pass, and I'm sure the numbers will go up. But that's not the case. Have realized how inaccessible the NBA is. The next biggest reason is the lack of promotion. If your name is not LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Kevin Durant, the league does not care about you. And do not be in no small market either. We have gotten complaints about the finals matchup in 2021 and 2022 when those featured 2-time MVPs at that time. People have been conditioned to only care about the major teams and players. All the teams are not marketed equally. There are favorites. The Cavs barely get any recognition. They barely get any national TV games because there are no super big names on the roster. The league should be promoting its best teams regardless what the roster is. The lack of exposure that some of these younger teams do not get is laughably bad. I mean, Paolo Banchero did not get his first national TV game until his second season in the NBA as a number 1 pick, by the way. Shea and the Thunder have been the first seed for 2 years. There's no Christmas games, nothing to show for it, and he hasn't been featured nearly as much as he should be. You have really good teams like the Rockets, the Grizzlies, and the Cavs who only have 44 national TV games combined. I mean, even the Pistons and the Hornets, I mean, they're not super good teams, but they have some really good young stars that should be talked about more. It's also not a good feeling when you have the media wanting these stars to go into bigger markets, basically saying that the team they currently play for does not matter. Well, it's kind of your job to make those teams matter. The amount of times I've heard that Ja needs to leave Memphis actually pisses me off. If he's a good player, he's a good player. It should not matter what team he plays for. The media discourse around the NBA is absolutely pitiful. It encourages negative discourse surrounding players and teams. Not to mention those people on those shows are casuals themselves. If they don't care, then why should I? I mean, it's gotten to a point where I don't even watch the media anymore. I'm sticking with like YouTubers and podcasters. They know more about the game than Stephen A, who's getting paid literal millions. Some of those shows are only comprised of hot takes, and they are not breaking down the game or providing any type of constructive criticism. They are not ball knowers either. They do not know ball. And the people who did know the game got fired, so now we have more room for Kendrick Perkins, and to me, he's just there to push narratives. You have old heads and the young players continuously taking digs at each other. Shows like First Take talk about the same players and teams and topics, and they are not knowledgeable enough to provide any insight on every team like they should be able to. Even inside the NBA crew isn't safe. I could tell they haven't watched any Rockets games enough to be commenting on their game against the Warriors. Given their track record, they probably are just now finding out how good Şengün is. They already have the who he played for segment, which I don't personally think it's a good look on them. And then half the time they be going either 0-5 or 1-5. I'm not saying, go perfect every time, but to me it shows that they don't really watch the game like that. You should be able to tell me something about the top teams, even if they are young and promising. It should not matter how small their market is either. Not too long ago, 2 of the top teams played in the West and you didn't hear a peep about it. It was because it was the Rockets and the Thunder. Now, I will say the Rockets are not a small market team, but they're not New York, they're not Golden State, and they're kind of getting out of their rebuild, so not a lot of people are kind of checking in on them. You're not giving anything for the fans to be excited about. There should be enough promotion to make the fans want to watch these marquee matchup games. The NBA needs to make these games feel significant. Make me want to tune in. Give me a story, something big or small. And I think the most viewed game this season was Klay Thompson's return to Golden State, because there was a key story going into the season. We need more rivalries, whether that be a team rivalry or a player rivalry. Because once Steph, LeBron, and KD retire, the league will be in big trouble, because outside of the casual fans, they don't know that much about the NBA. I asked my dad 3 simple questions to see if he knew, and I'm gonna play this video for y'all. Alright, so my first question is, what team in the NBA has the best record?
Cleveland.
Okay. What team did the number 1 pick go to? Okay, you don't know. Well, he went to Atlanta Hawks.
I would not have got that.
Okay.
I would not have got that.
Okay. Last question. Do you know what team Paolo Banchero is on? No? Do you know who he is?
I have Banchero. I don't know what team he's on.
Okay. And this is the stuff that I'm talking about. Right here. Prime example. My dad is a casual fan. So when I'm looking back at it, right, just scratching my head, just wondering, how is Bronny James getting more attention than the number one pick. You would think the Hawks don't exist. And I understand, once again, they're like the Rockets. They're not necessarily a small market team, but they are not Lakers. They're not Golden State. They're not New York. I understand this may be a weaker class, right? But the fact that Ricochet is barely being talked about is crazy, which is funny when you came from like Wemby, who had all the hype in the world, to Ricochet, who has maybe a drop in the bucket of what Wemby got. This is also the same thing with Paolo. Extremely good young player. Zero media attention, zero love from the media. And he's one of those top players that you should be promoting, especially after the season that they had last year. And he still continues to be unnoticed by the league. His first playoff series was on NBA TV. The league needs to do a better job at promoting these young stars, especially on these upcoming teams. There is no reason for my dad to not know who Paolo Banchero is. He's a former number one pick. Like, that is just really no excuse for the league at this point. Another big problem for casual fans is the style of play. Almost every team wants to fire away from the 3-point line because the analytics told them to. And this has definitely ruined the play style for each team because they all want to do the same thing. Even the Warriors, who kind of started this, they changed the game. They didn't even play like this. Yes, they were a heavy 3-point presence, but they actually had ball movement. They passed the ball. They played off the ball. They cut and screened for each other. Sometimes they will even turn down a 3 for a better shot. They weren't just shooting threes to shoot threes. Nowadays, you got teams shooting threes to shoot threes. Some teams won't even touch the paint for several possessions in a row. And it's either a 3 or a layup. And the erasure of the mid-range and the post scoring makes the game feel very one-dimensional. Only passing the ball around the perimeter or driving and kicking every play gets repetitive and boring quickly. I was watching the Celtics play the other day, and my goodness, they are so boring. They're probably the most boring team in the league. I mean, they literally just shot 63-point attempts in a game, and you only made 30%. Drew Holiday alone shot 4 from 17 from 3. And at what point do you realize that, this is not working out for us tonight? Maybe we should try to score in some other ways. The only person who really had it going on was Jaylen Brown because he wasn't settling for threes. Just watching a team take turns bricking threes is rough. Even teams who don't have the personnel to be taking as many perimeter shots as they should still fire away to quote unquote keep up with the rest of the league. This is in fact a copycat league, and I hate that so much because what gave one team success does not mean you will have that same success. I mean, we got Anthony Edwards out here trying to be freaking Stephen Curry when he's a 3-level scorer, and it's hurting the watchability of the game. How many times have we heard this during training camp that the coach wants player A to shoot more threes? Like Tatum a few years ago, they was like wanting him to shoot more threes. Why? When you have so much size over some of these players, you want to start shooting threes. Also, the same thing with Wemby. Get in the paint, nigga! There's no reason for him to be attempting 10 threes a night when you have so many tools at your disposal. The same thing with LaMelo leading the league in 3-point attempts with 13 a night. You have an automatic floater, so just go to that. Because you're only shooting league average. Almost half of his shots are threes. The better in-between game that you have, the harder it is for them to stop you because they don't know what you're going to do. I mean, look at Michael Porter Jr. We already know what he's going to do. Analytics prioritizing the 3-ball over every other shot is hurting the game. Yes, it gives you more points, but 2 points is also more than 0 points. And then with the players shooting a lot of threes, there's just so much more spacing. And I just want to defend the defense in the NBA just a little bit. After hearing those interviews of players saying how hard it is to defend with all the space that offensive players get, the space that offensive players have on the court, not to mention the game benefit the offensive player, especially with 3 seconds and officials rewarding foul baiting, which I will talk about later. But there is only so much one defender can do. With that being said, I will still criticize the effort that some players give. Like, I understand, there's 82 games and you might have had a late flight in, or you might not necessarily be 100%. And you know what? Every game, it's not going to be your best game. You're going to have some off nights. But the fact that some players can't even do the bare minimum on defense is inexcusable, because it's an effort thing and you're just not giving any. That's why some players say that, the players don't really care about the regular season, which I don't fully agree with. But there are 82 games and that is a lot, and you're not necessarily going to get up for all 82. Some people want to make that argument that the season should be shortened, but no one is willing to take a pay cut, the players nor the owners. So on top of the players just chucking up threes, lackluster effort on defense, you have the refs just doing whatever. For a league that wants to make the game shorter, calling every single bump a foul is certainly not helping either. The way the refs have officiated games is a mystery, at least to me. You want people to watch the NBA, but you want us to sit through 20 free throws just by one player. I understand free throws are a part of the game, but when a player abuses them, they should not be rewarded, but they are. As someone who enjoys the NBA thoroughly, this is probably the most annoying thing. You have your little Twitter post by like the NBA officials saying, we're gonna crack down on a new season, but you still never call the foul when the offensive player initiates it. People still flop and call the foul regardless. Whatever happened to finding those players? Who knows? The game is so soft now, you can't even look into their direction without getting a foul. I mean, let these players play, man. I genuinely think we should adopt some of the FIBA rules, because the game has gotten so much worse with the officiating. The only problem that was solved was take fouls, but that wasn't an issue with FIBA rules to begin with, because they deemed that unsportsmanlike. And speaking of the refs, I don't know what their problem is. They just love throwing techs around. They want to crack down on taunting, and now you can't even look at a guy too long. Don't hang on the rim too long. Don't clap too loud. Don't walk to the bench either. The last game I went to, Ja Morant got ejected because he had too big of a reaction when the refs called his quote-unquote foul. Because the refs thought Ja bumped DeMar DeRozan when he was straight up. What do you mean you thought? You need to know. In hindsight, the ref was wrong, but you cannot give a player a tech for reacting to a wrong call. The refs have no type of accountability. You can't criticize them whenever they are clearly in the wrong. And at times they have too much influence over the outcome. It's like they get on their high horse. Didn't like the only game Jokic played in Chicago, he was ejected during either the first half or the first quarter on Serbian night. Y'all need to be for real. We came to see the star player, not you. The end of the game takes too long, especially with reviews. I understand you want the calls to be right, but why can't you just have the people in Secaucus be the ones who decide, and you just announce to the crowd or the team what the call is? I feel like that would just save so much time. The same thing with reviewing for a hostile act or flagrant. You don't need to go to the monitor for everything, even a simple basketball play, but it was just a hard foul. That's another point to where I'm saying that the game is just over officiated at some points. We have load management, which is a crazy idea to me. If you're hurt, okay, sit out. But if you're completely fine and you're just resting, I'm with Adam Silver. You niggas need to start playing. Especially when it's your job. I will never understand completely sitting out games. Why can't you just have a minutes restriction or something? Because when I watch a game and the star player is not playing or is sitting out, I'm not watching that game. Even as a sicko, Steph Curry was out one game, he was just hurt. And I was like, I am not watching freaking the Jonathan Kuminga show featuring Draymond Green. That's just not happening. Because they are the main reasons that I want to tune in. With all that being said, there is no one reason for the low ratings. Like I said, these are all problems that need to be addressed, because it looks like the other leagues are doing way better than the NBA right now. It's time for Adam Silver to do some real changing, because it doesn't look like the NBA Cup is going to fix their problems. I mean, those ratings are going down too. He needs to actually go to the source and fix some of these problems that have kind of artificially been created. Since I'm an NBA sicko, I'm still going to continue to watch every game that I can. I mean, I'm a Grizzlies fan, so we ain't the ones that shooting all the threes or having lackluster defense. I mean, we got a nice little bounce attack, you know, give my team some love. I don't necessarily care what happens to the ratings because I am not a casual fan. So hopefully things can improve in the next year or two so that the product can just get better overall, and it's just a better experience for the casual and the hardcore fans. Thank y'all who've made it this far. This video was way longer than I thought it would be, so hopefully I translated all my thoughts and feelings well. So thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, rate, subscribe. Peace and chicken grease.